Finally, the moment a couple of you have been waiting for.
It's all like bing bong, Jack.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Duval and St. Johns County. The show for Jag fans by Jag fans.
You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Here are your hosts, Franklin and Michael how you say it? DeZoba. Welcome to the Jaggernaut Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, look out. It's the Brothers Grimm. We're back again. Guess who's back? We're back. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have a new head coach in Doug Pederson. So we are going to we're going to let you know how we feel about that and basically how we believe the presser went. Anyway, the introductory press conference is what I'm calling the presser. So as always, joined almost at the hip, it seems, with me is my brother Franklin. Brother, let him know.
Hello, everyone.
There you go. He spoke. Sweet. Now it's going to be getting him to shut up. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be our show tonight. Those are going to be the topics. So, again, in case you did not know, the Jacksonville Jaguars have hired Doug Pederson as the head football coach. Frank, tell me how you feel about Mr. Pederson.
Okay, so obviously when we last spoke, I had moved Byron Leftwich up to the top of the list, but I always, in thinking about the prospective coaches that appeared to be available to the Jaguars, I had said for some time that I thought Pederson was my number one choice. I didn't like how they got to this point. I don't like the amount of time it took to get to this point. I don't like everything up to getting Doug Pederson in the building. It was awkward that he was the first one interviewed. Made sense because he was number one on my list. So they started out strong and then they went off the rails after that. So, but never look a gift horse in the mouth. However you got to this point, you're here. As much as I had moved over into the Leftwich camp, I can't fault Pederson for that. And again, he was my favorite coach, but and the reasons why he was the fact that he won a Super Bowl. This is a guy who was with an organization. You talk about loyalty. I mean, he went up through the ranks of the organization. He didn't jump around. There was no grass is greener. So he showed his mettle, let's say, to the top brass with the Eagles, and they kept moving him up the chain, and he was successful. So every time he was successful at his job, they moved him up, and he won a Super Bowl. And the truth of the matter is I'm still not sure why the Eagles released him. It appears that Eagles fans still view Doug Pederson favorably. That's good. So I've got no negatives for Doug Pederson. So I'm happy with the hire.
Now, see, for me, Doug Pederson, as we said on one of our previous shows, to me, Doug Pederson was my top candidate, followed closely by Jim Caldwell, and then basically almost everybody else, and that included Leftwich. As the news started to break or started to build and the momentum started to build toward Byron Leftwich, I was okay with Byron Leftwich. I could see why they would go in that direction. They had already interviewed Pederson. They had already interviewed Caldwell, and it had been a solid, probably 2 weeks before the Leftwich interview. So I had already assumed they didn't like either one of those two candidates. That was my assumption. And then we hear about the Leftwich stuff and that his interview went well, and then they really liked him. They were going to give him a contract. He refused to work with Balky. and then everything sort of almost caused a reset. Then we started hearing about looking at these other candidates. Anyway, look, man, we got the number one guy on my list. It was extremely Jacksonville, the way that we went about doing it.
Yeah.
And I have some theories on that I'm going to share a little bit later, but
All right.
but it's very Jacksonville. It was very poor, I think. If you really liked Pederson, you interviewed him a month and a half ago. You could have easily gave him a contract there or brought him back for his second interview. You chose not to do any of that, and I can understand that a little bit if you're waiting for things, but you could always release, we're waiting on a few more candidates we want to check out, no big deal, we're not in a rush, something. They didn't put anything, they went dead radio silence, which it may cause them to look like the horse's ass. Truth be told, our data, if you look at the last 10 years, the last 10 years shows that Jacksonville is a horse's ass. So that's why I'm leaning toward the fact that they screwed this up, but they still ended up getting their guy. I like Doug Pederson. I have said for years, I want somebody out of the Andy Reid coaching tree. I like Andy Reid as a coach. I do respect him as a coach. He was successful in Philadelphia. He is hugely successful in Kansas City. Doug Pederson was successful in Philly. So if we give Doug Pederson the reins that he's looking for, that he wants, then I think Doug Pederson can be successful here. So I'm happy with it. Now, I want to wait and just sort of pump the brakes just a little bit until I start to see some of his other coaches.
Yeah.
See who he's bringing in. I'm not like, it's weird. So they said that he's bringing in Tampa's
defensive
linebacker
as defensive
coach.
Coordinator, but I think he's a linebackers coach.
Yeah, as defensive, he's an ex-player. He's a linebackers coach, and he's bringing him in potentially for the defensive coordinators. And I think that's a position, and I think that's fine. I want to wait and see who his offensive coordinator is. I want to know who his receivers coach is. I want to know who his offensive line coach is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned really with those positions than I am with the defensive coordinator.
Let me just jump real quick on that point. I'm concerned also because of the fact that, yes, we like Pederson, but he got the job late in the process. And so now it has his pool of choices gone down.
I'm sure based off the time frame, his pool of choices undoubtedly has gone down. Undoubtedly. However, these guys network. They're a huge network. It's a self-contained good old boy system. And you just have to be one of the good old boys. So I'm pretty sure that he has a network large enough that he can pull 3 potential defensive coordinators, 3 potential OCs, 3 potential quarterback coaches, 3 potential line coaches. I think his network's large enough that he can put together a decent staff. It may not be his top candidates because they may be gone, but I think he can put together a decent staff.
I wonder if some way that this works out to our advantage if Pederson is as good as we feel he is and can get the program.
Let's say might be, because it's one thing about being successful in Philadelphia, being successful in podunk retarded Jacksonville with Shad Khan as the owner is something completely different.
I'm just speaking in terms of.
You were speaking too positive for me. Don't you dare.
The possibility.
This is Jacksonville.
The possibility exists. I'm not hopeful for it, though. You have to acknowledge there is a possibility that 18 can get better. Therefore, we are 18. So I'm not even thinking about Jaguars. I'm taking my jaded Jaguar hat off and just thinking, okay, it's possible he could be very trying to be very unbiased and analytical at this point. So it's possible he could be good. We like him. He's from the Eagles. He doesn't have Jacksonville stench on him coming in. So what I'm getting at is that if these coordinators are sort of middle of the road, but good, maybe they're not future head coach candidates in the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe they'll have to work at that. So in other words, we might have some stability for 2 or 3 years. He might not lose these guys. It's kind of where I'm going.
Well, I mean, I think what you want as a coach is you want to develop a tree. You want to win and you want to develop a tree. And I think that's what you want, because I honestly, as a coach, not as a player, but as a coach, I think that's what you leave behind. People are still talking about, I know I'm going to get roaded for this, but Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, Paul Bear Bryant, these are hugely famous coaches, and they had huge trees. Bill Parcells.
Let me stop you. I don't care about coaching trees. I'm not disagreeing with your point, because that does mean that you're successful. So I grant you that point. I'm worried about Trevor Lawrence, and my thought is he needs to be successful. And so if we have some stability for the next couple of years, I see the possibility more so of success, because we all think that Trevor Lawrence has the tools to succeed. It's everything around him that sucks. So if we can get everything around him to change, then that's what I'm getting at. So right now, I grant your point.
Yeah, I completely agree. If he comes in and he puts in a decent, you don't have to be stupendous. You got to be decent. You got to be wanting to come in here and design an offense that works with Trevor's skill set. You got to be able to game plan and not leave when we get our butts kicked, in a away town. You can't be out there freaking partying
on the town.
Yeah. Saucing it up with some co-ed. You can't do that. And to me, I don't get that impression of Pederson. I think Philly's probably a far better party town.
Yeah.
If you want to go get into trouble, you can get into trouble in Jacksonville. But I think you can find 10 times the amount of trouble in Philadelphia. So with that being said, and you've never heard anything, not as a player, not as an assistant, not as a coordinator, and not as a coach.
So we have a stable coach.
Right now, it seems so, yes.
Coach trying to assemble a staff. We're still in look-see mode on the staff. They did hire Mike McCoy as the QB coach. I don't think they've locked in defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator.
That is correct. Yep.
Today.
Now, I don't know how to feel about Mike McCoy. I don't know a ton about him. I know he has head coaching experience, which is a plus maybe, but
yeah. I mean,
I don't think he was very good. I don't think he was a very good head coach.
Yeah, and he was good enough to get a head coaching job. So apparently he was good up until that point. That's the way I'm looking at it. So, and we're not hiring him as head coach. He's quarterbacks. He's not even the OC. So at that point, I feel like it's just another set of eyes, a sounding board. Somebody, I assume Pederson has some sort of connection to him, knows of him in some way. So,
I would assume almost everybody brought in is part of this network, whether he's worked with them before in the past or whether he's worked with somebody and has heard good things. I mean, and like I said, these networks they're huge spider webs. You don't think you can call Andy Reid and say, hey, I'm looking for this, you got a lower assistant who I can bring up, as like a secondary coach or cornerback coach who you think would do really well, and I'm sure Andy Reid would be like, yeah, I got so-and-so sitting back here as secondary quality control. I think he's going to be really good. He's been on the job for 3 years. He's blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's the way that stuff happens. So I'm not too concerned about him not being able to find decent quality sub coaches or, offensive coordinators, defensive or coordinators. So yeah, I like the hire and I'm cool with it. I'm still not giving Shad Khan a damn dime of my money this year.
So what did you think of the press conference that leads us into?
Okay, so I liked Pederson. I mean, what are you going to say? We've heard it all before.
Exactly.
It's all the same mumbo jumbo.
He's a coach.
Yeah, it was, from his point of view, it was all coach speak, and he seemed genuine. But Urban Meyer seemed genuine. And he was out there kicking kickers. So it's like, okay, well, are you really the first one in the building, last one out kind of deal? Now, from what I've heard, he is. He will put in that extra work. That's what I've heard. But Urban Meyer, I thought the same thing. Then he got to Jacksonville and it all went to pot. So who knows? So I want to wait and kind of hear that. But yeah, I mean, he just said, from a coach's standpoint, he just said what he had to say.
And so there's that. And what I wanted to, what jumped out at me was, so think about what you just talked about with Urban Meyer. Part of this, when we went through this whole Urban Meyer, in my mind, I'm trying to put myself in Shad Khan's position. And I'm curious, like, how did the interview process go? What sort of promises did Urban make? Did Shad know that Urban was going to be leaving early while everybody else would be staying late?
That question's easy. I know for a fact he had no clue what Urban was up to. He had no clue until he saw it on the internet, like the rest of us, with his hand up that girl's bunghole. Yeah. That was the first indication to Shad Khan of what Urban Meyer was really doing. You know why? Because he's out there selling on the fucking Kismet.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. So let's move on. Doug Pederson, you had a fine presser. I hope you enjoyed the damn vanilla ice cream. I'm not much of a Haagen-Dazs man myself, but whatever. To each their own. Shad Khan. Let's discuss him in this presser. You want to give me your feedback first?
Yeah, on that point, let's talk about the fact, and this has been talked about before, but I think he slipped up when he said that he was told that it was a thorough process. He sort of told you that he had no clue. He's not even involved in the hiring process.
That's exactly what he said, and that was my take too.
Yep.
We have an owner.
Matches what you assume when it comes to why Urban could do what he's doing.
We have an owner who is absentee. We do not have an owner.
Landlord.
That's exactly we do not have an owner. That's really what I mean. We have an owner in name and persona, I guess. And there is an individual that owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. He'll never be in the building unless he has to. Other than that, he's up there in Flexing Gate or he's selling on the Kismet. I'm telling you, in 10 years, our owner is so bad. In 10 years, he cannot tell you which side is offense and defense.
And listen, I have no problem with a hands-off strategy for, the problem is this. This is the issue that I have. If you're not involved in the hiring of the people who have their hands on it, how can you justify having your hands off of it? This is the issue that I have. I get, hey, he's a billionaire. Go sell the Caribbean, go sell the world. He doesn't have to be here. But by God, hire somebody who you trust and is good and is going to take care of it so that you can go do that. That's the problem I have. He's not involved enough, knowledgeable enough, networked
That's it.
enough.
That's it. Shad Khan's not knowledgeable enough to bring in a good front office runner, a good CFO. He's not. All he has is Tony Khan. And Tony Khan's got wrestling and probably several other things that he's doing. So to me, I agree. I don't like Jerry Jones for his meddling as an owner. You know, if I'm a coach, let me coach. If I'm a GM, let me GM, let me get the guys. But when I'm selecting those people to hire for those positions, I'm doing it. I'm in the interview process. I'm filling them out. I'm asking them stupid questions just so I can hear a stupid answer. You know, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to put in place the best people I can. Shad Khan doesn't do that. He does not he doesn't care enough to actually attend those meetings.
Here's what I'm thinking.
I don't know.
And
I'm not a billionaire. I wish
I don't
I
want to
was.
spend the whole. We need to move on to some other observations, but just real quick, there's some positivity, and this was brought out in the press conference by Doug, who mentioned Tony twice, and so it feels like to me that Tony Khan is actually the one that is attempting to bridge the gap between Balky and his dad, his pops, who's on the boat. So, and run the wrestling thing. So I think for me, I'm a little torn because I tend to have a positive view of Tony Khan, but I feel like maybe it shouldn't be positive, because if Shad is off, you know, doing whatever he's doing on his yacht, and Tony's the one that's actually here putting in the hours, then maybe we should be blaming Tony. And there's another way to look at it, or Shad, and I can see how it would be kind of awkward because Shad basically does call the shots, and maybe Shad is the one that's making the decisions and Tony's bringing in the information, and maybe he can't quite, you know, he'd be like, Dad, I wouldn't go that direction, but you're in charge. I don't know how that works. I don't know how the dynamic works. Maybe it'd be easier to understand if Shad just wiped his hands of it and said, Tony's in charge. You know, I'd be fine with it because at least we know who to blame. And I'd rather have him in charge. I feel like at this point, I trust Tony better, but I don't know. You know, I don't know if they both stink. I don't know if Tony's.
Well, right now, Shad Khan is in charge, and the only thing he really cares about is buying up our waterfront.
Yeah.
That's it. He doesn't care about the Jags. He doesn't care enough to be in the damn meetings. But I tell you what, when it comes to that waterfront and those shipyards, he's in those meetings. He knows what's going on there.
And it shows you, and it just puts an exclamation point about how out of touch he is when it comes to Balky, and the fact that, you know, everybody else wanted a culture change. I don't know how you say you want a culture change
and then don't change the culture,
and then don't change the main people in charge of building the culture that you had. Like, that's not changing the culture, and it's not unreasonable for the fan base.
Because simply he is just telling you what you want. He is telling the fan base what they want to hear. That is all it is. And dude's a dipshit. He may be a billionaire, and he is. Congratulations, Shad Khan. But when it comes to being an NFL football owner, you're an absentee asshole, is what you are.
And the thing that bothers me too is the media. And I know you're big on the company man line with this stuff. And the press conference, I'd listened to a little bit of I listened to it live on the radio as I was driving, but I missed some of it. So I went back and caught up. I skirted past most of the talking heads talking. I don't want to hear them talk anymore. I heard John Osher say, many people thought the process should have been quick, but the Jags, they wanted to make sure they took their time and did it right.
Yeah, that's a company man line.
And here's the thing, I have no problem whatsoever in them taking their time and doing it right. If they jumped out and immediately hired Pederson, I would have been happy but hesitant, because I would have thought, shouldn't you interview some more people? I mean, are you sure that, yeah, how do you, it was not the timing. It wasn't the length of time, although it was probably longer than it should have been. It was the haphazard way that the whole thing was laid out. And the fact that what happened to the Jaguars, in my opinion, was this. You could get away with running a team like this in the past, but you cannot do it anymore, because we have social media now, and we're all watching this transpire in real time. So there is no opportunity for them to just lackadaisically, spin their wheels and pretend that the whole time they've got charts and graphs and they're doing all this work, because that's not what we saw taking place. The negative thing that they have to figure out, and this has to do with the fact, probably with the front office, probably from the fact that the guy they left in charge, nobody likes, and social media is a pariah in social media. Maybe not anything to do with his own, but that is what took place. Nobody liked Balky. And because of that, the Jaguars never updated anybody on what was going on, and left it to all these people trying to break stories and sources. And I'm not blaming them, but I think when there's information, they're giving it to the people because they're hearing it. It was clear by the press conference that something happened with Byron Leftwich, by Shad's deflection of the question. I think
that is correct. Yeah,
brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, even when the guy, and I'll give the local media this, definitely not John Osher. Everybody, he's a company man. So's Tony Baselli, unfortunately.
Yeah,
he's a company man.
Baselli's starting to get me.
Yeah, actually, I'm putting Jeff Loggeman in there too. He's a company man.
I agree.
So all of them, you can't trust their opinions anymore, because they're not factual. They'll spin it so
they're paid by the team. They're paid by the team. They're not going to rock the boat, and I get tired of it.
So, but there were some questions directly about, had the Jags actually offered another coach a contract, and Shad basically just deflected it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't give you any yes or no answers. He simply just deflected it. Well, I think that, I heard it was a hard process. It's like, dude, you're not answering the damn question. You're just deflecting it. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. Which was an answer. It was an answer for all of us.
Yes, they most likely had. Yes, but they will not say it.
And they can't say it because they've got the guy they did hire, who apparently was a second choice, I'm guessing now, and they don't want to say that. So but that's the situation that Balky put them in, which was the guy we were telling them to get rid of in the first place. If they had gotten rid of that guy, they would have had a vacuum, yes, but maybe they could have filled it. Maybe they could have given the information to, so this was a public relations fiasco. Somebody messed this up. They needed to have been giving the information to the people so that it wasn't all this leaking nonsense. And it makes you wonder, because if the source, because it appears the source was correct, that Byron was very close to signing a contract. And if that's true, then that probably tells me that the other part was true, which is Byron said, yeah, but you got to get rid of Balky. And I've got another guy, because And once this information leaked, this goes back to me going, okay, would I rather have Doug Pederson at the last hour scrambling to get a staff together with Balky next to him? Or do I want Leftwich with Adrian Peterson? And the other rumor, which I don't know if that had any legs to it at all, was the fact that they might bring in Caldwell his first name's now, who's the old Lions coach? Because there's another Caldwell now that's throwing me off.
I don't know.
Jim Caldwell.
Okay.
Yeah, the old Lions coach. Because they were talking about bringing him in as kind of like a liaison, like an executive vice president, which I thought would have been a great idea. Just another person in the building to replace a PR guy, a football guy, a guy who knows players, all that stuff. And so I thought in my head, I'm thinking that would be amazing if they brought in these three guys and ousted Balky. But instead, we've got Pederson, which I like, but he's next to Balky and he's sandwiched. Think about the optics too. Pederson's in the press conference, sandwiched. So it's like you got this great, I don't know. I don't want to go with a weird analogy, but it's just he's sandwiched between these two idiots. And that's not a good look. It's not a good look for the fans. It's like, how are we supposed
to? But that is the Jaguar way, man. That is what we do. We take a decent coach and we sandwich him in between our idiot owner and our idiot GM. And that's what we do. Now, I do like the fact that Shad came out and said that they went to the NFL and asked them to start the process to order to do a vice president of football operations.
That was the best thing. That was the best news that came out of that press conference.
And I agree, because we need somebody else other than Balky.
Yeah.
We need somebody else in there. Now, granted, the guy could suck, but at this point, are you worse than Balky? I mean, you know what? I think only Urban Meyer would probably be worse at this point than Balky.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, the more people you can put around Balky, the more you can temper his asinine bullshit.
And well, here's the thing, and that's, I don't disagree with you wholly. My position with Balky isn't anything personal in this respect. Like, I don't judge him as being terrible at his job for sure. His record isn't good. That doesn't mean he couldn't have a good year. The problem is that everything around him created an environment that, in my opinion, makes it far more difficult to get the. So Doug was asked a question. And I don't remember the question exactly, but it had to do with his power, what he expected, like what we should expect as far as his power. And he mentioned specifically, almost quoting him, that he will have some say in the ingredients, meaning he's going to have say in
the player acquisitions, right?
Okay, so that's a good thing, but that also means it's still a little ambiguous. Like, what does Balky, how much say do you exactly have here? And so, that it just leads to this idea that once again we have an odd situation, and when you have, again, comparatively speaking, this idea that Leftwich and Adrian Wilson come in here with Balky gone, I could see us now. We have a chance, and we talked about this on the last show. Man, Chris Godwin's a possibility now. We could get Chandler Jones because Wilson's connection with Arizona. I could see an excitement for the potential free agents to come here. That I'm not saying there won't be an excitement, but even with Doug Pederson, I don't see it being this great excitement that it would have been. So in other words, those ingredients might not be as good with Doug Pederson as they would have been with Leftwich. So even if I thought,
but it's not because of Doug, but it's not because of Doug Pederson and or versus Leftwich.
No,
it's because Balky versus Adrian Wilson.
That's right. That's exactly the point.
That still may be the case, but as long as absentee Shad allows that to go on and transpire because he trusts him to do it, there's nothing we can do. Again, I'm not giving Shad any of my money. I'm not buying any merch. I'm not going to any games. I'm not doing anything. So Shad, you have lost me. Thank you. And why have you lost me? Because you're an absentee owner. That's why. So now, if they bring in a vice president of football operations and an assistant GM, depending on who these guys are.
Yeah, which is what they're saying, apparently.
When they sit around and Doug's like, I want this dude, maybe all it takes is one or two of those to say, I want this dude too. And then boom, they overrule Balky.
Yeah.
And then we get the guy. So it's possible. It is still possible.
And that's the thing too. It's more or less my concern is if there's an issue with coaches coming in, and it may not be like they think Balky's a bad guy. It may just be so in other words, somebody's reaching out to offensive coordinator. I don't know how many offensive coordinator positions have been filled, but if let's say Doug reaches out and somebody else reaches out, maybe they go, they got that Balky situation over there. I don't know if he's going to be one of these backstabbers or if I might rather go over here instead. So, and a free agent, a free agent would go, I'm not exactly excited. I hear some things and maybe they don't even know.
But see, okay, so
that's the problem.
I think personally that happens all the time every year. And I think here's why. Okay, so you get two different teams bidding for you that would like your services as a player. They're both offering the same amount of money. There are a few things I think sway you. How about a winning franchise?
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's probably the next thing you look at. Even if it's in Buffalo, a winning franchise.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Now, if you're looking at two crap franchises and one's in maybe Southern California, and you don't want to go play in the cold, you'll say, okay, I'll go there. But for the most part, it is money, then it is winning.
All you did was throw an exclamation point. Sorry to interrupt. Bad losing franchise and Balky.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
may be what, yeah. And you know how we overcome that? Money, money, money.
But that's the thing. But there's a salary cap, right? And I know we've got a lot of money under the salary cap, but like it isn't, and this is the thing, it's a business decision. So even it doesn't make sense for Con to make this as a business decision, because in my opinion, you've now created an environment where the cost for your team went up comparatively to the other teams. So if you're bidding on a free agent,
since we're talking about business,
spending more.
Guess what? And your revenue is going to go down.
That's true too. So this is why I'm saying this is an all-time terrible decision, and different tentacles and tangent points to a lot of different issues or reasons.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Jacksonville Jaguar way to do it.
So. And let me just get this out before we end too, because
get it out, brother. Get it off your chest. Let it go.
Well, I'm going to somewhat quote what the biggest line that I heard from Balky was they asked him in regards to what his power was going to be. And everybody, Pederson, and I think probably even Con too, hid behind this word collaboration. And so Balky goes, he said something like, show me a team that doesn't have collaboration and I'll show you a team that's not winning, which is like, okay, I guess, maybe, I don't know. Bill Belichick, probably, I don't know how much collaboration's going on over there.
Hey, dude, have you looked at your fucking logo?
And
there's a team with no collaboration.
And the other thing he said was, he goes, when you collaborate, there may be a time basically where somebody's going to have to make the call. And when that happens, it'll be us. What do you mean, a collaboration? It's like, that doesn't even make sense. Who's the final? That's what the question was. In those events, it'll be a collaboration. Like, what? It's to me, it's like it's word salad that they're using to cover up. You just throw all this stuff out there. It's like, no, I caught that, man. That made no sense. And that's the frustrating part. And it's not anything to do with Balky. He's in a bad situation. everybody's in a bad situation. I don't know why it wouldn't be in everybody's best interest for him to move on. Just go, why would you want to be on the stage when everybody hates you? This is the thing I don't understand.
Why does he care you hate him? This dude's making bank.
Dude,
if I was making bank, dude, you would literally have to fire me.
Right. That's how that works, though.
Yeah, but we don't have it.
Fire you.
No,
He'll still get paid.
No, dude. Shad is off on the Kismet. The coach is finger banging some co-ed. I can do what I want, and I can still get paid.
That's the problem. Doug Pederson, as great of a coach as he is, he's got this giant cloud over everything.
That is correct.
Yeah, they better make some really good hires at EVP.
Yes, and Old Man Winter in this case is Shad Khan. The cloud's bulky, but Old Man Winter is Shad Khan. I blame him exclusively.
Oh, there's no question the buck stops.
I honestly wish, if you're going to own like this, let Tony Khan have the final decision, because at least we hear Tony Khan is in the meetings.
Yeah.
At least we hear that he is doing things in the building.
Yeah.
He doesn't just show up for the draft so that he can be on camera in the NFL Network jumping around to draft guys, especially probably your number 1 overall pick last year, and you don't even know who he is. Like, you show up 5 minutes before your pick's in, and then you're just up there like, yes, we got our guy. It was a good guy. It was done with a collaborative effort. And then you don't even know. I swear, he probably had no idea Trevor Lawrence played at Clemson. No idea. He had no idea before he even met him, before the photo op. And that's just it. Shad Khan, he shows up for the photo op and then he just disappears. So I wish he would just turn control of the team over to Tony, because at least we're hearing that Tony is in these meetings and Tony knows what's going on in the building.
Yeah, the buck does stop with Shad Khan, and that buck is the fact that the player personnel buck doesn't appear to stop anywhere in the building. So it's like
collaborative, man. It's collaborative.
Nobody has any, it's like, oh, Balky's basically, don't blame me. It's like, so, there was a decision made. What do y'all, crystal ball? I mean, what is this, man? Like, we get it. You guys,
what is that dice? The 66 sided dice or whatever that shit is in D&D.
Oh, 20-sided dice.
Yeah, they just rolled it. Wait, let's get the magic 8 ball. It's not to be.
Yeah.
A decision was made.
Maybe that's why it's got the rails. They don't want to admit. But the point is, Doug Pederson he's got his work cut out from. I hope he understands the position he's in. I hope that everybody else is, going to fix it somehow, bringing in two extra people.
Well, but truth be told, there has been such a shitstorm. Even though Khan is sleeping on the Kismet right now, probably drunk off of cognac or whatever, when he wakes up, he knows the fans aren't happy. He knows they're not happy with Balky. He knows they're not happy with him and his decisions. Balky knows the fans aren't happy. Now, do they care? Probably not.
I don't care if they care. I want them to make the right decision.
Because if they care, they may stop doing the shit that they're doing. Maybe we hear less BS leaks. Maybe he stops being this, rat or turncoat or whatever pressure he was applying before. He's like, okay, hold on, let me pull back. Now, it may only be for a little bit, but truly all we need is a little bit to allow the EVP and the assistant GM and, Doug to get together, probably maybe with Tony Khan, form a decent relationship, and just let Balky out there on his own. Leave him on his own little island.
Yeah, and that's the best case scenario, I think, if there's not going to, if they don't just get rid of Balky, somewhere in between the start of the free agency period, then I think that the best case scenario you could hope for is Balky's basically neutered. He's just sitting there like those teachers in New York that touched a child or something and they can't fire them and they're in a room somewhere. Basically something like that. The problem is that you still have him loitering around the building, upset, nobody trusts him. And you also are bringing prospective free agents and draft picks. And now the draft picks don't have a choice. They're going to come regardless, but you still have that morale that's built up where you've got this guy that's just around the stadium that nobody believes in. And it may not be his fault. That's the thing. I don't think Balky might, then this is the bad problem. I don't think this guy might not be a terrible guy. It's just everything around him is so bad. It's just a terrible decision to keep him. And that's that was the best case scenario for us. And that's, so if people want to know why I'm not throwing a parade for Doug Pederson, it's because I don't envy Doug Pederson's position, one, and two, I don't know how successful he's going to be when you go, we got this great coach, but we're just going to throw all kind. It's like having a speedboat and throwing anchors on it. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you're not going to beat the other speedboats, not in a race, not with anchors all, so I don't know.
Yeah. But hey, that is the situation at which our owner has left us. That's what he feels is a good collaborative effort. And that's what he came up with.
And as a Jag fan, all we can do is go, we're going to go into the season. And like you said, I'm not buying anything. I'm not going into the games. Doug Pederson doesn't turn the dial enough for that. If they start winning and they do churn, if Doug Pederson from the inside is able to overcome everything we're talking about and make it positive, then they can have me back. I'm sure a lot of other fans will feel the same way, but
they've never lost me, but they have lost my money.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's but no, I mean, they've lost me to a certain extent. I mean, we talked about being apathetic. I'm apathetic at this point. It's like there's not, everybody knew what we needed except for the people who could do anything about it. Or they chose not to do anything about it. So to me, like, how could you have that great feeling about, so we called him an absentee landlord. Everything's falling around where you live. You think next year is going to be different?
So my genuine hope is the EVP and the assistant GM are brought in and they can help overcome the stink that is on this franchise, and the absentee owner, where the EVP can be that sort of owner voice, and basically can set up a good foundation to allow Doug Pederson to do his thing, which and then allows the players to be able to go play ball, which then hopefully leads to winning. That's my hope. So I still have that hope. Well, but again, the difference is that I control my money, and Shad Khan will not see a dime of my money this year.
Well, the Jaguar fan has some good news. In the event that the collaboration breaks down, there will be a collaboration.
Yeah, that's right. They're collaborating to collaborate. That's what we do here in Jacksonville. And then we go to our magic 8 ball and it says not likely. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is our show for you tonight. Hey, hit us up in the comments if you think something different. Maybe we missed something. Maybe we want to talk about something specific you want to talk about. Put it in the comments. Let us know. Until next week. Thanks, guys.
See you.